Hello and welcome to this demo video. Before we get started, I'd just like to explain to you a few things which will relate to all of the basic range spreadsheets. Number one, there is a key on the intro and setup tab of all of the spreadsheets showing what the different color headers mean. The blue headers mean that the cell's formulated, so it's locked and you can't change it. The yellow headers are where you can input data, and occasionally there might be some gray headers, which is just a different kind of data input, but we'll include instructions as and when that happens. The other thing that you can be aware of is there are ways in which you can damage the spreadsheet. So please do take a look at the link where you see this image, which will take you to a web page to show you how to better preserve your spreadsheet. Please feel free to keep a blank version of the spreadsheet somewhere, so that if you do mess up a spreadsheet that you're using, you can in fact just open a new one, a blank one. And some of the spreadsheets only last for a year, and then you've got a blank one to start the following year. So do keep a blank copy as a backup somewhere. And lastly, wherever you see this image, you can click on it. It'll take you back to the store where you purchased this product to see if you've got anything, any more products. One last thing, to see a demo video, you can click on this on a link that looks like this in order to go to the demo video, but that'll take you to the most recent demo. If in fact we've done upgrades and you're using an older version and you'd like to see the demo relating to your version, then do click on the watch on YouTube link, which will take you to that specific video on YouTube. So I think that's all you need to know. So without further ado, let's move on to this demo video. Thank you. Hello and welcome to the demo video for the weight loss and food diary. This is the first video that I'm doing on a new laptop that I bought, so bear with me if things don't go quite according to plan. But let me show you this new spreadsheet. It's actually a spreadsheet that I would probably have put in as a prime range product based on the complexity of the spreadsheet, but I wanted to try and keep the cost low so that people could afford it and didn't want to have any excuse not to get it, because I really think it's going to help people. I'm not a weight loss expert. I'm not a coach or a personal trainer or anything of that nature. I have been through this process, as you can see here, very overweight a number of years ago, and went through the process, excuse me, of losing weight. I'm not quite there anymore. It's probably somewhere between these two. But I went through that process, and that process, I found, yes, it takes discipline, and that's why people use coaches and personal trainers and professionals. And yes, it does involve nutrition, and that's why people use nutritionists and other professionals like that. But it also comes down to self-discipline. And this is what this spreadsheet is here to help you. It's help you to give you the numbers, and it's not necessarily going to do the job for you, but it helps you to then be more aware of what you're eating and what exercise you're doing. So let me explain to you how this works. It's fairly easy to use, but there's a lot going on, so you need to obviously be aware of how to use it. So let me show you how to use it. On this setup tab, first thing is you can put your name in here. You can select whether you want to use kilograms or pounds. This is really just to show your weight loss. And then you also need to put your height in millimeters. Now, if you don't know what your height is in millimeters, you can put, for example, 6'4", and it gives you the height in millimeters. And then you can just simply type that value in here, and then you've got your height. You need to fill this in. This here is just a calculator if you want to use feet and inches to give you the height in millimeters. Once you've done with that section, you can scroll down, put in your starting weight, and put in your target weight, and put the starting date and how many weeks you want this whole process to take. So you can go up to, I think it's up to 54 weeks. Yep. And so it can be a fairly long-term goal, also your target weight. And then it shows you what you need to lose per week, your starting BMI and your ending BMI. Now, obviously, BMI is mildly controversial as to whether or not it's useful, but it's there anyway. If you select pounds up here, then these would change to pounds, and you'd enter your weight as pounds. But it doesn't use stones and pounds. It's just straightforward pounds. And I think that's it. That would then set up the spreadsheet, and you'd be ready to move on. And then there are two gray tabs at the bottom, and then 3 yellow tabs. The 2 gray tabs is what we would call setting up your goals and your targets. And then the yellow tabs are what you're actually doing as you're going along. So the first one is a meal plan. Now, again, I'm not a personal trainer or a food expert as far as nutrition is concerned. But what I will say is I had the firm belief that you lose weight by what you eat, not by exercising. Now, yes, exercising plays a part, and yes, you do burn calories and so on and so forth, but I personally wanted to set a meal plan that would see me lose weight even if I didn't exercise, because then when you go for a run or whatever it is you're doing as an exercise, it's all bonus calories that you're burning, and that helps you lose weight faster. If you rely on exercise because you're eating too much, so you rely on the exercise to bring that down, that's all right if you're maintaining, or if you eating calories to do exercise like sport or weightlifting or whatever, that's a different story. But if you're just trying to lose weight, I personally would recommend that you set your meal plan to make sure that you lose weight and have exercise as over and above that. So what I've done with the meal plan is the most important thing you need to put in here is your daily calorie allowance. Now, the NHS does give guidelines as to male and female and what their calorie allowance is. If you know what yours is, or you've spoken to a nutritionist or a personal trainer, you know what it is, and put the number of calories per day that your allowance. That will then not only help set your meal plan, but later on the report will see figures against that daily allowance. The second thing that you can do is set a meal plan for each day of the week. Now, you can go into as much or as little detail here as you want to. What some people prefer to do is literally just give a calorie allowance for breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks and drinks, and so on and so forth. So you're not actually specifying what you're having for breakfast. Other people want to go into a little bit more detail. So for argument's sake, for lunch, they actually want to put bread, tuna, mayonnaise, whatever it is you're actually having for lunch for that day, and list all the different calories. So if you want to go into great detail, then you actually want to use this to make a meal plan per week, so you know what dinner you're having on Wednesday and so on and so forth. Some people prefer that because it gives them a routine. It takes all the thinking out of it. You can just do whatever it is for that day. Then you can do that. If you just want to simply put breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, drinks, what you need to do is you can list as many items here as you want. I mean, I've left a whole whack of rows, so I've left all 90 rows basically. So you can select, if you can put in a fair number of things that you want to eat or drink. Just remember to assign each one to the right category. So instead of putting breakfast, lunch, and dinner, because people call dinner tea and tea dinner and it all gets confusing, I've just put in morning, midday, evening, drinks, and other. So you can then assign them to morning, midday, evening, drinks, and other. Morning, I would say, with breakfast, midday, lunch, evening, with dinner, tea, whatever it is you call it. Other would be snacks and other things throughout the day, and then obviously you need to keep track of your drinks, because sometimes the drinks and calories wise can be the difference. So you can either just put in the actual meal, or you can list different items that you use for that meal for each day of the week, and then just remember to assign each one to a category, and then put in the number of calories. So this is obviously quite an important exercise, because it makes you actually go and look at what you're eating for dinner, how many calories it is, and putting it in. And sometimes when you put in an average day that you do, you'll be quite shocked as to how many calories you're actually eating. So that's step one. What that will then do is at the top here, it will show you the difference between your number of calories that you've said you're going to eat that day of the week, and then it shows you the difference between your calorie allowance. And here it shows your weekly difference. So if, for example, let's just say on a Saturday you had a cheat and you had a massive dinner, it'll then show you a negative for that day, but you can still see your weekly and go, yes, you're under the weekly allowance. So you can see the daily allowance as well as the weekly allowance. And that then helps you set up a meal plan for each day of the week. So going into as much detail as you want. So that's the first one. The second one is an exercise plan, which is very, very similar, except this case, you don't put in a default, because here your daily calorie allowance is your allowance. The exercise plan, assuming you do none. But then what you can do is you can then go and fill in the exercises that you do on those different days and how many calories it burns. Now, this is quite tricky sometimes to know because you may not know how many calories it burns. You either have to look it up online or you have to use one of the watches that gives you an idea. And again, they're not accurate. And that's why I don't like to rely on exercise to actually burn calories. If this is all a bonus, then it's great. You want to get your weight loss done here because you can usually get these calories more accurate than you can get the calories that you burn. But for the sake of putting it in, put in what exercise you want to do each day of the week and how many calories you think it burns or you presume it burns. And then that it will set what your target is, calories burned for each day of the week. And once you've set those two up, you can change these as you go along if you want to, but if you don't, once you've set that one up, then all you need to do is your food diary. Now your food diary, each day, this is where it gets, I won't say tricky, but this is where it gets a little bit monotonous, and this is where it takes discipline, and this is each day when you eat or drink or have a meal or whatever the case might be, you can come in here, you can fill in the date, you can select the meal. Now the meal that you select is what you've already used. So because I've already put in cereal, when I come to the next one, there'll be cereal will be there, feast will all be in alphabetical order. If I want to add a new meal, so if, for example, if I want to add in a hamburger, then if you add in a hamburger, then when you get to the next one, the hamburger will be on the list. So if you can put in the date, you can select the meal or input a new meal, and then you can select which type it was, morning, midday, evening, drinks, or other, and then put in the number of calories. Now, if I select cereal or feast, it already knows the calories because I've already done that meal. So it'll give me that as a potential. If I go, well, this time it's not the same, I can override that and put in whatever it is that I want to put in. So basically, if you select one of the ones that you've already had, it gives you the calories, the last calorie that you did with that meal. So you can go, yes, it's the same. If it's not, change it. Next time it'll give you the last one you did again, and you can change it or keep the default. But just fill in that entire line. So put in the date, what the meal was. If you've done it before, select it. Otherwise, type in the new one. You don't necessarily have to fill that one in. But what's important to fill in is which category it is, and then the number of calories that you've eaten. Because then what this will do is this will check and go, you've eaten that much for the morning on that date. What should you have eaten on that day of the week? And it'll compare the two. So that's what creates all of these percentages along here. So here you can see the percentage of that meal. So that pasta in that evening was 85.7% of the meal allocation that I've put for an evening on that day. So you can see what percentage of that meal you've eaten. You can also see what percentage of that day you've eaten. So as you get towards dinner and in the evening, you'll see what percentage of the day you're at, how you've compared. This is compared to your meal plan, by the way. Here you can see what percentage of the day you've used compared to your daily allowance. And here you can see the percentage of the week and the day that you're on. So for argument's sake, if I'm currently filming this on a Wednesday and you're on the Wednesday, it'll say you should be somewhere between 14.3 and 28.6% of your weekly allowance. But I've gone well over here on this day. So it'll give you the percentages where you should be at the start and at the end of that particular day, and you can see where you actually are. It's this big one I've put in here to show the numbers that's causing the grief. But for here, for example, it'll say you should be between 14.3 and 28.6, and we were on 13%. So we were before lower than that, but at least if you're within that range, you can gauge where you should be depending on the meal you're using. Here it's the same story. What weekly percentage have you used and where should you be based on your daily allowance? So this is your daily allowance, those calories that you put in the beginning, and this is the meal plan, what you've set yourself. So you can constantly, each time you fill in a meal, you can see where you are compared to where you should be. You can change the settings here. You can see it goes green, yellow, and red. You can change where the yellow one ought to be at what percentage. So that's fine. You can leave it at 80%, or you can change that if you want to.
So that's your food diary. You've also got an exercise diary, which works very much the same way. The date, whatever exercise you've done, and how many calories you burned. So if you select one that you've already done, it'll give you the same number of calories. But if you know what it is, just retype it in, put the calories in. So each time you do exercise, put that in. It'll show you where you are, the percentage of the day. So we've got 16.7% of the calories for that day, burned, that is. But it'll show you the week, what you've done, and where you ought to be for that week. And these will all update as you go along. And you can again set the percentage achieved. I've set it to 60% there. You can change that if you want to. Last but not least is the weigh-in. So all you really do here is each day. Now remember, at the beginning we set this up. This is something you need to obviously remember. When you set this up, because we set it up on a Monday, it wants you to weigh in every Monday. So when you set this up, remember, I would pay attention to what day you're doing it, because you want to start it on the day that you weigh in. You want to start off with a weigh-in. When you start off with a weigh-in, remember you put your starting weight over here and you put the date in. And every week it asks you. So when you go to the weigh-in, it'll ask you, what was your weight that week? What was your weight this week? Now here, because I've left filming this for 2 weeks, it's 2 weeks behind. I'll come and put those in shortly when we get to the report. But at the moment, it's 2 weeks behind. In fact, let me put them in now. So if this week I weigh in and I weighed 106 kilos, for example, and then here we weighed in and it was 105.5, you can see here what your weight ought to be on target, and then you can fill in your actual weight, and it fills these criteria in for you, so you can see what's been happening as you weigh in. But then all of this together, if this is all kept up to date, it keeps your report going. So your report tab, all the basic information here, weekly meal plan allocation, you can have a look through this. When I talk about calories saved, what I mean by calories saved is if you can eat 2,500 calories a day and you only eaten 2,300, then you've saved 200. That calorie saved is what you've eaten below what your allocation is. So that's calorie saved. So you can have a look and see at those figures. I'm not going to go through all of them now. But if you scroll down, you can see the graph. So you've got your calories consumed each week, as well as where your meal plan is. That's what you've set. Now, because I've set them all the same day, that's straight. It may well go up and down, but it's also weekly, so it'll probably stay the same. And then here's your allowance. So that's your allowance that you put in there, your meal plans, and you can see where you've gone each week. Again, with your calories, that's what you set yourself as your target each week, and it'll show you each week when you exercise where you've exercised and what's going on there. Your weight loss, it'll give you one consistent line down, which is your target, and then as you add your weight losses in, you'll see the little green line comparing with the red one where you are in relation to your target for your weight loss. Here you can see your weight loss or gain per week. So a loss would be in green, a gain would be in red each week. Calorie deficit in green, excess in red. You'll be able to see that on the graph as well. And then your calories used per kilogram lost. Now, I didn't want to put this on initially, but I thought some people may want to see it. So initially I said any calories that you eat less than your allowance. So it takes your calories saved plus the calories that you've burned, and says if you've saved so many and you've burned so many and you've lost kilograms, or how much weight, how many calories does it take used to burn each kilogram? Now these figures may be well off because I've just put random figures in here, but you can see what yours would be each week. It only shows on here if you actually lose weight. If you put on weight, it doesn't show the value. And then if you scroll down some further, you can see your meal plan versus calories for morning, midday, evening, drinks, and others. So you can see overall which one of these, which one of the types is is maybe to blame for you having too many calories. So it breaks it down per meal type, and you can see where you maybe dropping the ball a little bit. Your weight loss graph, it shows you what weight you've lost and how much you still have to go. In a donut, ironically, graph. And here you can see the weight lost and the time taken, so you can see whether you're ahead or behind of your schedule. you can also see that on this graph here, where if you below that, but it just shows it nicer on another donut graph. So this report will update automatically based on what you fill in. So you can really monitor and keep track of just about everything on here by doing in your weigh-ins as and when you need to, by keeping track of your exercise diary, your food diary, and setting up your exercise plan and your meal plan. So yeah, it's a fairly complicated spreadsheet because there's a lot going on, but I think it's quite simple to use, and it does take discipline. And if you are trying to lose weight and this is good for you, I really, really wish you all the best with that. And yeah, I hope that you see this the success that you're looking for. So yeah, thank you very much for using the spreadsheet. Thank you. Goodbye.